So it's week 7, and for this week I wanted to try something new with Future Bass. I needed a song 5 and I needed to get it done. So I started to experiment with different sounds, and I found this synth from Serum. It's a preset. It was actually what came with Serum. And then I decided to put a snap, heavy reverb, a lot of reverb on that, and a bit of delay. I just wanted to add a effect of something, something's about to happen. The next thing I did was I put the pluck chords that I've used in lots of my songs before. And this has got a heavy sidechain from the kick through a compressor, which based on my research I started to use. As you can see, I've still got the Future Bass sidechain here, and it's through to the kick, the sensible kick, and it's just, I left the preset because I like the preset how it is. I then decided to layer it with a modulating synth, also from Serum. Just added a highness to it, added some of those high frequencies. I then added the 808. Then added a clap with a ding, and a snare underneath. No reverb or anything on them, just put into a sampler, EXS24. Then I needed some sort of lead on it, so I took 2 presets from Serum, Bottle Blow, and the same sidechain on there as the plucks. Then I added a Big Bells, which is also a pluck, to have something under it so it gave a bit of bass. And then added the kick. Then I decided to make a little break part here, where it'd just be the pluck from the start, the leads, and a different pluck bass. Creep, which is from the preset pack Major Lazer. Together it sounds like this. And the snap from the start. So with this song I wasn't very happy with it, for many reasons. I didn't really like the whole feel of the song. I couldn't get any of the parts to match together, so I couldn't get this to match to this. I couldn't write anything new for it, so I just decided to leave it. And I felt like this was a good decision because I took ideas from this onto the next song and the song after that, to create something that I'm happy with, and you'll see in the next video. So this is one of the next songs that I started. It all started out with this simple guitar here. An electric piano, sorry. This is just a preset, and I took this guitar amp and tremolo off. And this is just an electric piano, and it has the same presets it does. I think I cut a bit off the low end to to make the bass sit a bit nicer, so it wasn't clashing with the frequencies. I then had a idea that if I reversed the intro chords, I could have a really nice, intro to it, and then tape stop it. Then I felt like it needed something else, so I decided to add a piano, and then reverse that piano. Do the same to it. Together it sounds like this. I then added a muted guitar. This came off an idea from Millennium. Millennium always uses guitars in his track, and I took a bit of help there. And pan left and right with reverb and a bit in the peak here to cut through the mix a tiny bit more. Then added this bass vintage synth that you've heard in all of my other tracks with the low cut. This is so it doesn't clash with the sub bass. And the sub bass is just high cut all the way to the frequencies that it needs, which are these here, 20 to 50. And then reverse the muted guitar, and then added snaps. A lot of reverb for going for a bus. A bit of channel EQ, sort of boost these frequencies and cut out any that I didn't need so it wouldn't clash. And together it sounds like this. I also added some toms from a Future Bass kit. The lower one is more like an impact, and the higher one has a lot of delay on it to make it bounce, ping pong delay. It sounds like this. So the next thing I needed was a little change, so I decided to add some Future Bass in. Before that I added an open can and a water droplet, and then some impact. Then decided to add some Future Bass chords in the same chord sequence as it was before. These are the plucks that were used in before, and I've kept the BPM at 150 because that's Future Bass sort of tempo. Then I added some underlaid. All of these are heavy sidechain to the kick. And then reverse them. So the next is the drums. I added a kick, snare, there's a trap snare, some closed hi-hats in the rhythm of a trap, some open hi-hats, and an 808. You can sort of tell here from my research that you can automatically tell that the Future Bass is sort of originated from trap, considering the beat is pretty trap-like. Like I think that someone could definitely rap over that. And altogether it sounds like this. have a break here where all these tape stops out and it brings back the guitar and then comes back into the drop again. I needed some transition, so I decided to speed it up a bit and change it so it's all high cut from the stereo out going up, and then add some claps in, and here would have been a drop, but I didn't get to the drop. The reason I didn't pick this track to sort of like make the final cut is because I felt like I had too many tracks similar to this already. Like, you know, I wanted something to be a little different. I didn't want that sort of like future bass like that you hear all the time, and especially from the track that I made before, with the Chainsmokers preset sort of thing. It definitely sounds similar to that, especially in the way of the drop here. I just didn't feel like it. I wanted this to make it. I probably still will use this at some point, but not in the near future. So for this week I did end up uploading a song or a snippet to Instagram, but sadly I don't have the snippet or the song that I was working on because I deleted it because I didn't like it. But I did get some good sort of like feedback, and of course that I wish I'd kept it because then I would have put it in the logbook, but here it is. And you can see I've got a lot of good feedback. Like it, sort of feels like it needs a higher part as well, probably just me. Yeah, I got some comments on the lack of Supersaw, which is the future bass synth that I actually use. I did need to put a higher part, and I think I didn't like the whole thing. I didn't like the intro to it. I felt like the chords are a bit boring, and I felt like I could definitely have improved it if I just carried on, but I didn't. This wasn't a waste of a week because I was just sort of getting ready for the next week to write something that I was happy with, and these were just practice tries. I never intended to sort of like use any of these. I knew that from the start that these were ideas that I would be using for future stuff, and definitely some ideas have come from this. Just sadly, this track was, you know, ideas that I've already used that I just sort of just reused, I guess. Especially like the start of this, I think I would definitely be using this maybe in one of my tracks, but I'm just going to keep working and see where the next week takes me. If it takes me onto something, you know, that I will like, that I will end up uploading to SoundCloud or Spotify and will make my final EP, then that's good. But if it doesn't, then this definitely might have been a waste of a week. So it's week 8, and I've realised that if I didn't start mixing my songs, then I'd have no time left to mix the other ones. This one was going to take about 2 weeks, as I'm quite new to mixing, and it would take me a couple of tries. I did leave time in my schedule to mix on the final week, but I think because I've left the mixing so late now that I will run out of time. So I decided to start mixing, which this means that I've cut down to 4 songs. Which means that I'm behind on my proposal, on what I said in my proposal. So first thing I did was I took all the tracks and I put them all the way up so they were all peaking, and then one by one I took them down. I then took off any added effects that they had, and then especially on some of these organs and stuff, the organs had a lot of reverb and stuff on them already. But these kick samples and snare samples and drum samples, they didn't really have any at all. So I go one by one, slowly leveling them, and then each part. So I do verse, then chorus, then verse again, and then chorus, and then do it all again, just little tweaks, just to make sure I've got them all leveled. I then add any reverb or compression that they needed. As you can see, I've added some compressors to the router keys here. and then I've also left out a compressor on this one, then added a compressor and tape delay to the piano. I also messed with any reverb, or took any reverb or put them to the same channel as some of the other reverbs, so they sound like they've been recorded in the same room. I also tweaked with this. I ended up taking some of the channels off. As you can see, I've taken pitch shifter on these as I had them on before. I didn't like them. I also started to mess with the strings reverb. So I wanted the strings to sound good. I wanted them to sound real. So I decided to put a tiny bit more reverb than they originally had and take off any effects to make them as dry as possible, except from on these hip hop strings. I took off the Guitar Pro thing and the exciter. I added some channel EQ and tweaked with the arpeggiator on this harp here to make it sound better, to make it sound more like a Muramasa sort of harp. Then on the drums, I EQ'd them properly, making them sound as to the best quality as they could, and then went on to the chorus, which is here, which you can see the vinyl, all of these tracks here. I made them sound as good as possible. I started to research into tutorials on mixing and mastering. Now, what the tutorials told me is that if I leave the song a couple of days and come back to it, then I will find it to be easier to remix it, which is what I did. I left it for a couple of days, I came back, and I found that some of the low end and the high end were too muddy in the mix. So I ended up going through and EQing some of that out. As you can see, I've low cut some stuff here, and then I've high cut some stuff here. Now if they were like that before, I'd edit it and make sure that they were perfect and that nothing was cutting through the mix that it shouldn't be. And as you can see, I've done some extensive EQing here. I've boosted some here and cut some straight out the middle, and low cut and high cut both sides. As you can see, I've boosted the whole of this area to get a clean, nice sound. So one of the things I like to do when mixing is I like to take them into the car or any other speaker I have in the house and test them out. This is to test if the low end or high end is too much. If the high end is too much in the car, or the low end is too much in the car, I will come back to the drawing board, remix it, high end or low end that is needed, and bounce it back down, take it into the car, and then work from there. If I was to redo this week, I'd definitely start mixing on the first day instead of writing as I did. I think I left the mixing a bit too late in the week. I felt like if I was to redo that from day one of this week, that I would have had it done by Friday. But because it's now gonna clock over to the next week, I feel like I've wasted some of that time. On the other hand, I also think it's a good idea that I started mixing this early, because if I'd left it too late, I would have been panicking by week 10 that I wouldn't have it all done, and by week 10 I really wanted to have all of the mixing done, and if I needed to do any extra, I would have that time. For this week I didn't post anything for my marketing, which has really affected my following. I've lost about 30-40 followers because I haven't marketed anything on there. I also haven't posted on my Facebook or Twitter in a while, which is greatly impacting that. I think to pick it up, I need to start posting regularly. I said every day, but I'm thinking now every other day, because I seem to forget if I do it every day.